Hi. On problem 7, the figure is given, represented a billboard supported with a wire hooked to the ground at point C. Then we have another post here, which is 7 feet, and the wire here is 28. And this point C, where that wire is hooked to the ground, is X away from the base of the billboard. And the first part of the question, create an equation that can be used to determine the value of X. So I can, by looking at the figure, I can see that we have a small triangle and we have a bigger triangle. And since the 7, the post and the billboard are parallel because both of them are perpendicular to the ground, then this triangle and the other big triangle are similar triangles. So we can set up an equation look like proportion. I can say that X from the big triangle over 5 equals 28 from the big triangle over CE. But how long is CE? That's not given. But if we think a little bit, we have a right angle triangle and we know the two legs. One leg is 5 and the other is 7. So we can use a squared plus b squared equals c squared to find the hypotenuse, which is EC. So c squared, the hypotenuse squared, equals 7 squared, 49, plus 5 squared, 25. 49 plus 25, that's 74. Square root both sides to get rid of the squaring. C equals square root of 74. So now we know CE is the square root of 74. Now we can write the proportion X from the big triangle over 5 from the small triangle equals 28 from the big triangle over CE, which we just found as a square root of 74. That's part A. Part B, want to find X. So use this proportion by cross multiplication and we can find X. So I'm going to rewrite this one more time, then I'm going to cross multiply. Or I can multiply both sides by 5. So 5 times X over 5 equals 5 times 28 over square root of 74. The 5 is cancelled. 5 times 28 is 140 over 174. Because this 5 is 5 over 1. Then when you multiply fractions, just multiply top by top, bottom times bottom. But we don't leave our final answer with the square root on the denominator. We always need a rational number here. So we call it rationalize the denominator by multiplying by square root of 74 over square root of 74. So 140 times square root of 74 over square root of 74 times square root of 74. When you multiply square root by itself, you just take away that square root notation and you keep the regular number 74. But 74 and 140, both of them are even, so I can reduce by 2. I can divide by 2, divide by 2. So when I divide 140 by 2, I get 70. When I divide 74 by 2, I get 37. So final answer is 70 multiplied by square root of 74 over 37. That's the value of X for problem. For problem number 8, ABCD is a parallelogram. So this means that opposite sides are congruent, diagonals bisect each other, and so on and so on. We given that AE is 20, BE is x squared minus 24, ED or DE is 2x. What is the length of BE and ED? They should be equal to each other because diagonals bisect each other. But we want to know what the value of X, so I can tell what is ED and what is BE. So we need to set up an equation. This BE should be equal to ED, so that's going to be my equation. Instead of BE, I'm using whatever given for BE, x squared minus 24. DE equals 2x. And this equation we can set it up because diagonals bisect each other. When you have an equation which has x power 2 and x power 1, we need to make it equal to 0 first. So subtract 2x from both sides. That's going to move the 2x over here and it's going to be negative 2x. Put them in order, x power 2, x power 1, constant equals 0. Because we moved the 2x, so now it's empty, it's 0. Now I need to factor that trinomial. When we factor a trinomial, when there is no number in front of the x squared, just do two parentheses, factor the x squared at the beginning of this parenthesis and at the beginning of the other one. So x squared is going to be x times x. Don't use the 2x at all right now. Just find two factors of the 24. So we are using the x squared, x times x. We're using the 24. We need to find two factors of 24. Two numbers, you multiply them, you get 24. When this is minus, when you subtract these two factors, you should get 2x. So for example, if I say 1 times 24, if I subtract them, I get 23. That's not going to work. If I say 2 times 12, it's not going to work because the difference is 10. If I say 4 times 6, the difference is 2. So we are going to use 4 times 6. I need 4 times 6 to give me 24, but negative. So one of the two numbers should be negative and the other number should be positive. But which is going to be negative, which one is going to be positive? The rule is the biggest number of the 4 and the 6, which is the 6, takes the sign of the middle term on the original trinomial. So this is the negative in the middle, the 6 takes the negative, and the other number is going to be the positive. Now set each one of these two parentheses equal to 0. So either x minus 6 equals 0 or x plus 4 equals 0. Add 6, x equals 6. Subtract 4, x equal negative 4. Negative 4 is rejected. Why negative 4 is rejected? Because if I plug in negative 4 here in the 2x, the length of ED is going to be negative 8, but there is no negative length. So this is rejected. The only value we're going to use for x is 6. Plug in 6 for here. 2 times 6 is 12. So ED is 12. And BE is going to be also 12 because they are equal to each other. If you want to check your answer, just try to pick or to take that 6 and plug it in here. If you get also 12, you know that we did everything right. So let's try it. X squared, I'm using 6 for the x. 6 times 6, 36. Subtract 24, we get 12. Same answers. That means that we did good job.